From the Sky News Centre at 1, a budget airline has crashed in the southern French Alps with all 150 people on board feared dead. The Airbus A320 was operated by the carrier Germanwings and was travelling from Barcelona to Dusseldorf when it came down this morning. Flight tracking data suggests at one point it was plummeting 5,000 feet a minute. Captain Mike Vivian, who used to work at the Civil Aviation Authority, says there's no reason the plane would usually have been flying low over the mountaintops.
These aircraft go well above the Alps. As I say, the only reason you'd be descending in there is if you're going in there a schedule like Geneva or Zurich, or you've got a major emergency and you're diverting.
Well, at least 45 Spanish nationals are believed to be on board. Spain's Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has been speaking to reporters in the last hour.
All I can tell you is that I am very sad, as are many, about this dramatic accident. We're going to do everything we can in our powers to help the families, to give them our support.
In other news, cancer charities have praised Angelina Jolie for going public with the news that she's had her ovaries removed. The actress had them taken out over doctors' concerns they could turn cancerous, having already had a preventative double mastectomy. The progress police forces in England and Wales have made in improving their use of stop and search powers has been criticised by their watchdog. Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary made 10 recommendations in 2013 to prevent people being stopped unnecessarily, particularly those from black and ethnic minority backgrounds. It's found since then there's only been good progress against one of the recommendations. For the first time since comparable records began in the late 1980s, inflation hit 0% last month. It means the cost of living hasn't got any more expensive in the last year. And UEFA President Michel Platini has been re-elected as the head of European football's governing body. It will be his third four-year term. That's the latest. I'm Tom Harrigan.
This is Duck Island Radio, and you're listening to New Media Today.
Hello, and welcome to New Media Today on Duck Island Radio. It is currently 1:02 in Lincoln, and you are listening to Rory Cole,
Dan Derrick,
and Robert Bryan.
And if you'd like to follow our show closely online, you can visit www.newmediatoday.weebly.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at New Media Today and on Twitter at newmedia_today. Coming up in the show, we'll be talking with Graham Cooper live in the studio, who's a senior lecturer at the University of Lincoln. We'll also be chatting with Faye Clemenson in the library on the site of the University of Lincoln. We also will be reporting on the music industry, TV, school and technology, and esports and gaming.
But first, music. It's something that affects everyone, whether it's in a film or whilst on a train. Music can be everywhere. Which is why Rowan Barnes and Rory Cole went out earlier today to speak to the public about the state of the music industry, current issues, as well as an interview with musician Guy Matthews.
Rory Cole and I went out onto the streets of Lincoln to interview people about the current state of physical versus digital and the free downloading of music online. Taylor Swift released a statement saying that all music should be free. Do you agree with this?
I think that you should have to pay for music because that's the way of artists making a living, but I don't think it should be as expensive as it is, and it should be more easily accessible for everyone.
Things like Spotify are a nice way to kind of listen to stuff, but then they've got to make a living somehow, and that's their job, so they should get paid for it, to be fair.
No, because I think it's a sort of special art form that people have spent time and effort creating, and so therefore I don't think it should be free.
We sat down with Guy Matthews, a 19-year-old singer-songwriter from Liverpool, and had a chat about his experience with the music industry today.
Are labels quite individual then? So like they only really take a certain genre of music?
Yeah, lots of labels are very genre based. So Roadrunner Records, Hopeless Records, they only sign rock acts. So Roadrunner has everything from I'm struggling to think of another one, but Nickelback, Marmosettes, Slash, they have purely guitar rock based acts, and Hopeless Records do the same. They've got Rome, As It Is, they've got they had We Are the In Crowd, and they've had all sorts going through there. But then And RCA Records have kind of got a history of being quite varied. So they have the Foo Fighters, Bring Me the Horizon. They were the first people to sign Elvis when he was coming out. But then they've also signed Shakira and, you know, people like that. And it's that diversity that makes me more interested in them as a record label. You know, they've got character to them. They're not just solely focused on a genre and being the label for that genre.
Napster was an MP3 sharing website where users could send each other files and download songs, and it was shut down in 2001 due to copyright infringement. Do you think that websites like Napster should be shut down, or should they be allowed to thrive?
I'm kind of split on what I think, because I think if artists are trying to get their music out there and they haven't got a way to get it out there, then websites like that are going to be good because it's easy to share the music. But then if you've got a really popular artist that is trying to make money because that's their living, then they shouldn't have to put their music on there.
Like things like YouTube and Spotify, they're not really needed. Like people can listen to songs, and if they want them, they can, you know, buy them, and that's more of a fair way to do it, to be fair. So I think they can stay shut down.
Well, again, that's giving music for free, I presume, is it? And so, really, no, I still don't think that's fair, because it's like expecting to go to the theatre for free, or expecting to go to a Premier League football match for free, or expecting to get somebody's painting or artwork for free.
Music is an art form, and what we have learned from our interviews is that we are in a digital age where it is really easy to download music for free. However, it is important to remember that musicians depend on the income they receive from their music, and without this revenue the industry wouldn't exist. People are willing to pay for the music if they enjoy it and respect the artist.
That was Rowan Barnes and Rory Cole, giving different opinions on an array of different musical subjects. To hear the rest of the interview and others like it, go to www.newmediatoday.weebly.com.
So here live in the studio today we have Graham Cooper, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Lincoln. So why did you decide to be an animator, Graham?
I've always had a love for animation as a kid. I grew up with the Disney films. I'm kind of a Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin kind of era, and always kind of loved them as a cinema-going child. And then I just kind of fell in love with the idea of being able to make these things myself, and I kind of started using Microsoft PowerPoint as my main animation tool.
How did you make PowerPoint an animation tool?
I kind of hacked it from a very crude standing. I used to use clip art and as my character elements, and then there was a way of kind of unwrapping that clip art so you could manipulate individual pieces, and then I had each individual slide was a different frame of the animation, and you kind of trick the timing of those slides to get really crude stop motion animation.
I had no idea you could unravel the
Yes.
You have to show me.
I will.
That sounds amazing. That sounds fantastic. So when you talk about the Disney films that you grew up with, do you think that there is enough animation out there in TV and in film today?
It's kind of grown massively over recent years. You're seeing it all over the place. There's been a kind of shift with a lot of things going into TV as much as there are in cinema, and I think that's come down to the it's not necessarily that it's easier to make this sort of animation these days, but it's certainly more accessible across the industry.
A lot less drawing and...
Yeah, well, it's still very time-consuming work, but there's hundreds of thousands of skilled animators out there in the world that are doing this sort of stuff.
Interesting. So you mentioned, or Dan mentioned, pen and paper animation. So what do you think of the bridging from taking the time and sitting down and writing frame by frame to now computer animation?
I don't think it's... I think there's still the same amount of work and artistry and amounts of skill that is involved with those processes. The computer is just a different tool. It's just the equivalent of pen and paper in my mind. It does seem to be that they have the industry has kind of shifted to more CGI animation, but I think that's kind of a style trend that's happened within the commercial world and the consumer world that since Toy Story, now 20 years ago, every month there is a computer animated film out in the cinema.
Have you ever thought about publishing work rather than coming and teaching?
Well, I do. I kind of dabble in both. I am a kind of active practitioner as well as an educator. So I do kind of more motion graphics than kind of narrative animation. So kind of title sequences or promo adverts or music videos. The last 2 years I created the advert for the university that played out in the cinema, which is all animation, motion graphics.
Right, well, thank you for coming on the show, Graham. I'm sure you're a very, very busy man. Yeah.
Well, if you would like to listen to that interview online, you can find it at www.newmediatoday.weebly.com. And thank you very much, Graham, for coming into the studio.
Thank you very much.
Now, Joe Barker went to the Ermine Academy earlier this week to ask about how technology is aiding modern-day education.
Technologies in education has evolved extremely in the last 10 years with the introduction of smart projected whiteboards and also even some schools introducing learning aids such as tablets using educational apps, which aid the development of children as young as 5 years old within schools. However, with the introduction of these facilities, it opens up the question of whether students are being exposed to the internet from an early age, to which it may affect them negatively.
How has technology helped your children in an educational way?
I think it's been really helpful. I mean, having the internet at your fingertips allows you to have all of this information, so whenever any of my kids have any questions, I can always look up the answer to make sure I'm giving them the correct one. And also it's just a really useful tool. There's lots of games that are also educational, particularly like number games and stuff like that.
I'm Alex and I'm 11 years old.
I'm Yasin and I'm 8 years old.
I'm Ruby and I'm 6 years old.
We're at Ermine School. We're talking to some of the students here. What sort of games are there?
There's Lincoln Ocean City.
Do you use the same like games?
Well, we used to do Education City, but now we're in Year 6. We don't really play very many games. If we play games, they're more on the laptops.
I visited Ermine School where I spoke to Mr. Hodges, who's a new ICT teacher. What technology is used regularly in the school?
Okay, across the classrooms, usually embedded within our weekly timetable, every class will be using laptops.
When it comes to children using a tablet, a survey of adults said that 50% of the time the tablet is used for educational purposes. Do you enjoy the use of it?
Yeah.
Have you seen like, the iPads being used in the classes at all? Or
as a school, where we're at Ermine Academy, the next step will be moving towards the tablet learning. In a number of other schools, I have used iPads, and apps are incredibly useful. My own children, for example, at their school, they make mini movies and they use the Apple software, the Apple applications. They also put together music. There's a number of musical apps. You can build up a number of layers of music and put your voice on top. So,
seeing the results from which the parents of children are answering it, it seems that technology is helping them in a massive way.
Do you enjoy learning a lot more now? There's things like laptops and the interactive whiteboards in Education City and things like that. Do you feel it helps to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a tablet as well.
Do you have educational games there at all, or do you use it when you're at home?
But yeah, I have some educational games, and on my laptop I've got things like programming games.
More than 80% of the best-selling apps in the education section on the iTunes store are aimed at children. Through the development of the technology, that is a good thing in that the more technical aids there are for education will help benefit today's society.
There's lots of great applications for embedding and using tablets within the curriculum in a broader sense. I think we saw quite a change about 10 years ago across the profession, and schools were making allocation in their budgets for interactive whiteboards because the benefits are huge for the learning. As I say, lots of children are very visual, and that's one of the key ways in which children learn. So I think it certainly has a place to play. It will definitely grow.
So, it's pretty comprehensive that technology is a large influential factor on the future of our education. Let's just hope we can keep these positive results in the future, and if you'd like to find out more information, you can visit our website at www.newmediatoday.weebly.com, where we have the full interview available to listen to on demand.
What about you, Rory? What technology do you have in your school?
Well, in my school, there wasn't. There were 3 fixed computer rooms. There weren't iPads or laptops there was no portable technology. It was just these 3 classrooms.
We had a wheelie bin of laptops. We had to return them and plug them in at the right time, or else we'd get in trouble.
I like that.
It was very tight and scheduled, but better than having just solid rooms.
That's
But
good.
on the topic of schools, we are heading to our reporter Joe Barker, who is live with Faye Clemenson, a media librarian at the University of Lincoln. Joe?
Coming towards the end of the term for most students, I'm here on a very busy Tuesday at the University of Lincoln's library with Faye Clemenson, who's the media librarian here. Looking at what we spoke about regarding technology with education, how do you feel about technology taking over education?
I'm not sure it's about technology taking over education. I think it's about technology supporting as a scaffolding support towards education, so really opening up, making it more interesting to students of all different ages, really, from very young to the very old. It's not about taking over, it's a complementary thing.
With the library having entire floors with PCs, how do you feel it affects the university?
The effect of technology is huge on the university. Of course, we're always catching up with students. So students tend to have a whole range of technology about them. We've done some surveying of students, asking students, and they'll have a multitude of phones, a tablet, and a different computer, a PlayStation, or some other gaming equipment at home. It's a huge range, and we are trying to catch up with that. So that means better Wi-Fi, better, easy and simplified access to all that technology, so that you can get into really complex, interesting information. So all the time we're catching up with you.
How do you see the technologies benefiting education even more within the future?
Oh gosh, I think technology has such a way to go to make education even more interesting than it already is. I mean, it's interesting for Lincoln being where we are. We're kind of so far away from the huge metropolis of London, Manchester. So it gives that access that probably wouldn't be there if you couldn't electronically access a library collection, a museum collection, see plays that you wouldn't normally see. I think it gives you that ability to really reach into an information topic and look at it and assess it and get a real feel of it that you might not get without having a huge science museum down the road. So I think technology can do so much more for education and really open it up to so many different people.
Talking to Faye, it seems that technologies are seen to greatly affect education, and it seems it will be a main focus for the future of education. This is Joe Barker reporting for New Media Today.
That was Joe Barker with Faye Clemenson, a media librarian at the University of Lincoln. So Rory, how often do you use the library here?
I'm a regular goer to the library. I go probably 3 times a week, 4 times a week, mainly for printing and for getting some quiet, sit down in a corner, open your laptop, rattle out some words on your essay or whatever it is, the work you have to do. What about you?
I find it a really good environment to work in. The quiet, the floor. I don't go to the quiet floor because it's too quiet. I feel like it's just hard to work in there, but the floor beneath where you can speak but at a low tone, I find it perfect.
Yeah, the silent floor is quite intimidating. It is like, oh, we must be quiet because it's always silent. So there we go. You're listening to New Media Today on Duck Island Radio. The time is 1:19 in Lincoln, and if you'd like to follow us on our website at www.newmediatoday.weebly.com. You can also find us on Facebook at New Media Today and on Twitter at newmedia_today. So, the way we watch TV has changed over the last couple of years due to the rise of online subscription services. These services have become a lot more popular, with younger generations are beginning to affect scheduled TV. Our reporters Jess Claxton and Katie Bullock look into the generational differences and the impact of this.
There goes the neighbourhood. Bingo! Double bingo!
The way in which we watch TV is changing. 2010 saw a rise in TV programming available online, partly due to smart TVs. These TVs are internet-enabled and allow people to watch on-demand services such as iPlayer, LoveFilm and Netflix. In April 2012, 1 in 3 people who owned an internet-connected TV primarily watched programmes through these services.
My iPad to watch Netflix. I can't watch Netflix on my TV because I don't have broadband.
I would imagine it does, yeah, for people who are working. Because if they miss anything, they just go back to it.
It's really good, yeah, really easy.
Obviously I get to choose what I want to do, but then sometimes that makes it harder, being able to choose what to watch. On demand's definitely getting bigger because people don't like to stick to a time schedule, but it's not going to go anywhere because people like their regime of going home, watching TV at 8 or whatever.
Easy to access and watch stuff which, like, if you miss something live, then you can easily access it on the internet.
Online subscription and catch-up services are beginning to have an impact, however small, on more traditional ways of watching TV and film. For example, back in 2008, Netflix.com had 194 million visitors, 5 times that of Blockbuster.com. Blockbusters closed in 2010 due to bankruptcy, citing strong competitors as a reason for this.
We spoke to senior lecturer Neil Kendall, a former vision mixer and director for broadcast television, to get his opinion on demand services versus scheduled TV. What are your opinions and thoughts on TV in reference to on-demand and internet content?
I think it's a very generational thing, how you use these things. I mean, I know, for instance, my mother-in-law, who's in her 80s, uses her TV just as it always was, you know, and she's made this amazing discovery that there are other channels beyond number 4. But then I know my son, who's in his 20s, almost never watches anything live. He will watch everything on replay. Very rarely watches on his television. Nearly always watches on his laptop. I think it makes it a lot more difficult for the broadcaster to know how many people are watching. That always has been very difficult. It always has been an inexact science. They've never known exactly. They've done it by this, I don't know whether you know this, but this bizarre method of a few people used to have things called JICTAR boxes attached to their TV to monitor what programmes they were watching and what they weren't. That's how they do it. They can't actually work out exactly who's watching.
Your opinion on like illegal downloading and streaming on TV and films?
I know quite a few people who do it. I wouldn't hold with it at all. To me, that's theft, whether you like it or not. And the fact is, it's not giving any money back to the industry.
We asked the general public in Lincoln's High Street how they watch TV and discovered that it was more common for younger generations and the middle-aged to use services such as Netflix. Research done by YouGov reflects this and found that 53% of 18 to 24-year-olds who own a smart TV don't watch scheduled television at all.
Ofcom also found that 6-year-olds have the same understanding of technology as 45-year-olds and that they are most confident about using this technology during their mid-teens. After this, it gradually begins to decline. If this pattern continues, we may find that scheduled TV is phased out as online services take over.
There goes the neighbourhood. Bingo!
And that was a report on the issues of on-demand television versus scheduled television. To find out more, visit our website at www.newmediatoday.weebly.com.
So, Rory, do you stream or watch Netflix?
I do stream quite a lot, actually. Over the past few weeks, I have watched a lot of television on Netflix. But coming up now, we have a news bulletin with Rob.
This is Duck Island Radio, and you're listening to New Media Today. The introduction of a way to use real money to buy virtual cash for World of Warcraft has prompted a big change in the value of the game's gold. The exchange rate for dollars fell by almost a third on the first day that Blizzard let people swap real cash for the game's gold. At launch, players could spend $20, or about £13, to get 30,000 gold coins to spend on gear in the fantasy game world. But 24 hours later, the same amount of cash netted players about 20,000. Before now, the only way that World of Warcraft players could artificially boost the fortunes of their characters was by visiting a grey market site and surreptitiously buying gold from unlicensed vendors. Late last year, Blizzard announced plans to introduce a $20 game time token that could be converted into WoW's internal currency. Currently, only North American players of WoW can buy the token. Tokens can be traded on the game's internal auction house for gold, effectively giving people a way to turn real money into virtual cash. Alec Meir of the game news site Rock Paper Shotgun told the BBC that there have been some initial overreaction to the drop in value of each token. I'm sure the long-term plan is simply to bring more transactions within Blizzard's purview, and in doing so reduce the influence of gold farmers and keep people playing for longer, he added.
Well, that was Robert Bryant with the news. Talking about games, at some point in our lives I'm sure we've all, wanted to play video games for a living.
We have. I have. I know.
Yeah, I know I have. And for some people, that dream's become a reality.
Video games have come a long way since the release of games like Tetris or Asteroids. Graphics are more impressive, audio is clear and crisp, and the actual gameplay of some games is so fun and complex that some people play competitively.
More time onto White. He does not have that flash up. It looks like he does get a good shockwave down, but it looks like coming from the backside could be at least the savior on the assist. Godlike barrier. Tabe getting hit up in the bottom lane. Tabe in all sorts of trouble. You can see him being pulled away, but it comes Lucky. Lucky gets into Uzi, picks up the kill.
Electronic sports, or esports tournaments, are watched by hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, and are played in a variety of games. Some of the most popular are fighting games like Street Fighter.
No. Seriously? Here we go! Here we go! Hold on now, Tokyo trying to stay alive! Oh, there again.
First-person shooters like Call of Duty and Counter-Strike.
Gades are going to sail in on that defuse as well, and there's Get Right getting another. Fifth Lauren has to get in here and stop this defuse, and he just barely does! It's a one-on-one now, and Get Right versus Smash.
And card games like Hearthstone.
Oh my God,
are you kidding me?
Oh,
you got it, yeah, exactly. Oh my God, this is so sick.
That's a game. Artie, you can't believe it.
Sylvanas.
Everyone's going crazy.
One of the most popular games right now is League of Legends, a game where 2 teams of 5 players battle it out in an arena to destroy a crystal at the opponent's side of the field.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1 of the World Finals is going to SK Telecom T1. Full control.
To find out more, I went to talk to some professional League of Legends players to find out how they got into the game.
Well, there was quite a few people from my school that played it. I'd seen it on the internet a little bit. Didn't look that good when I watched it on the internet before I played, but it didn't take long for me to get into it.
When I started playing, I was like, what is this? But then it grew on me. No.
My first few games absolutely sucked as well. Like, you just get beat down, and then you get frustrated, and you don't want to get beat down, so you keep playing. And by the time you don't stop getting beaten down, you're addicted and you play.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So is that why you play?
Yeah.
No, I play because I'm good.
In many tournaments, teams will compete for large prize pools. The largest so far is from the International 2014 Dota 2 Championships, where the winning team won over $5 million. I decided to talk to the general public to see what they know about the esports scene.
No, I've never heard of esports.
Never heard of it, no. I don't understand it that much.
Yes.
What does it mean?
EA Sports in the games.
It seems that people don't know much when it comes to esports, even with its recent popularity growth. I asked our professional gamers if there were any other esports they were interested in.
I watch the championships sometimes.
The League of Legends Championship?
Yeah.
Just League of
There's
Legends.
Counter-Strike on the homepage sometimes. Professional RuneScape as well. I'm into that.
Esports have had a strong growth over the past few years, but I think it will be a little while yet before you'll be watching matches down the pub. Back to you in the studio.
That was Robert Bryant reporting on the interesting world of esports. How was interviewing professional League of Legends players, Rob?
I mean, it's something else, you know. I mean, these guys are living people's dreams, you know, playing video games for a living. It's great.
I myself am a huge League of Legends player. I adore League of Legends. But I'm never do it professionally.
You see, I never got onto the League of Legends bandwagon. I used to play professional RuneScape for about 3 years. Not recently. It was about a year, 2 years ago. Since I started, it was really big among like the people who I ran with at the time, and like you would be there a lot. You would be there a lot.
You're listening to New Media Today on Duck Island Radio.
Well, that's all for today, I'm afraid. I would just like to say thank you again to our guests. Thank you to you all at home for joining us. Thank you to my co-hosts.
Thank you.
And don't forget, you can find all our interviews and behind the scenes stuff at www.newmediatoday.weebly.com.
Music, TV, games and films and much, much more on New Media Today.